A man sat in a dark room. Rain lashed against the window behind him, blurring the neon lights of the city into a watercolor painting. He was alone, or at least he thought he was. "Tell me where she is," a voice said from the corner. The man didn't flinch. "I don't know what you're talking about." The voice chuckled, a low rumble that echoed strangely in the large space. "Oh, you do know what I'm talking about. You just don't want to talk about it." The man remained silent, staring straight ahead. The only sound in the room was the relentless drumming of the rain. It was a sound he knew well. He used to listen to it when he was a kid, huddled under his desk in the closet of his parents' house while his father beat them. It was a sound that had followed him throughout his life, even in the finest hotels in the world, always present, always reminding him of the life he had escaped. He had been so successful, so powerful that even now, decades later, people still feared him. But what did they know? They only knew the monster he had become, not the man he once was, not the man he could still be. "You were always a coward, Michael," the voice said, echoing his own thoughts. "Even in prison you were a coward." Michael turned slightly. "Who are you?" The figure stepped out of the shadows. It was a young man, barely older than Michael's daughter. He was lean and mean-looking, with eyes as cold and hard as diamonds. "You should know," Michael said, his voice raspy from disuse. "Why did you come here?" The young man shrugged. "I already told you. I want to know where she is." Michael shook his head. "You have nothing to do with my family. Why are you threatening them?" The young man smiled, a cruel twist of his lips. "Because she's my ticket out of this town, old man. And if I can't have her, nobody can." Michael stood up, his joints aching from years of bad decisions. He was old, out of shape, his hair and his dignity long gone. But the fire in his eyes was still there. It was the same fire that had made him the most feared man in the city, and the same fire that had kept him alive in prison for 10 long years. "You're playing a dangerous game," Michael said, trying to sound threatening. The young man laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "As are you, old man. As are you." Michael lunged, driven by a primal need to protect his daughter, to be a father. It was a feeling he had never known. It was a feeling he had never known until she had been born. For the first time in his life, he understood the meaning of love. Selfless, unconditional love. It was a feeling that made him forget his fear, his pain, his age. It was a feeling that gave him strength. The young man was faster, stronger, meaner. He easily threw Michael off balance, sending him crashing to the floor. But Michael didn't care. He would do it again and again for his daughter. The young man picked him up by the collar and slammed him against the wall. "Where is she? Tell me where she is, and maybe I'll make your death quick," he hissed. Michael spat blood onto his shoes. "You bastard, you don't know who you're messing with. I'm gonna kill you." The young man laughed again, a cruel, mocking sound. "You can try, old man, but you're too slow, you're too weak, you're nothing but a shadow of your former self." Michael's vision was blurring. He could feel his strength ebbing away, his consciousness slipping away like sand through his fingers. But something inside him, some primal instinct, kept him going. Something told him that this was just a test, that this was just the beginning. The last thing he remembered was the young man's surprised expression as he felt something sharp pierce his chest. Then everything went black. When Michael woke up, he was lying on the cold concrete floor. His head throbbed, his body ached, and there was a gaping hole in his chest where his heart used to be. But he was alive. Somehow he had survived. He stumbled to his feet and looked around. The room was empty. The only sound was the relentless drumming of the rain. He was alone. But then he heard a familiar voice. "So you're finally awake? I was wondering how long it would take." Michael turned and saw the young man standing in the doorway. He was smiling, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was a smile that promised pain, a smile that promised death. "Where's my daughter?" Michael asked, his voice hoarse from disuse. The young man's smile widened. "Oh, she's fine. She's just asleep." He took a step closer. "And when she wakes up, I'm going to make her an offer she can't refuse." Michael lunged, driven by a need to protect his daughter, to be a father. But the young man was ready for him. He easily blocked Michael's attack and sent him crashing to the floor. "You're too slow," the young man taunted. "You're too weak." But Michael wasn't giving up. He would do anything to save his daughter, even if it meant going back to the abyss, even if it meant becoming the monster he once was, because sometimes there is no other choice. Sometimes you have to choose between being weak and being strong, between being a father and having no daughter.